Okay, so we are starting with introduction to toxicology, and you must understand what does the toxicology means. It means that it's the study of adverse effect of chemicals or physical agents on the living organisms, or to be more precise, it is a study of harmful interactions between any chemical and biological agent. So these chemicals in toxicology are known as xenobiotics, that is poisons. So the science basically involves about not only studying the exposure of these chemicals and the mechanism of action of these chemicals after interaction with biological system, but also involves the recognition of these chemicals, identification of these chemicals, quantification of hazard from the exposure to the xenobiotics. So xenobiotics, as I just told you, xeno means foreign, biotics means to biological agent, hence it is called xenobiotic. Development of standards and regulations to protect the humans and the environment from the adverse effect of chemicals is another aspect of this study. So we not only study exposure, mechanism, we recognize the toxicity associated with it, we identify the chemical agent, we quantify depending upon which dose is actually causing the hazard and which is not causing the hazard, and then set up certain standards and regulation to protect the humans as well as the environment from the adverse effect of that particular. The word toxicology is derived from toxicon, a poisonous substance into which arrowheads were. So the origin of toxicology lie in the use of these poisonous substances for the purpose of murder, suicide, and even political assassination. There are few of the examples in the history that I would like to share with you, which forms very much interesting toxicological cases. Among them, which is dates back to 399 BC by Socrates, that hemlock poisoning, which is a plant, is responsible for killing of this philosopher named Socrates, and the active ingredient or the toxic agent which is responsible for causing it is called as quinine, and which is an antagonist for the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, and which results in the cessation of this neurotransmission, resulting in muscular and respiratory collapse and death. So this is the plant which looks like, and this is the chemical structure of the quinine. So exposure, identification, all this is being done by toxicologists. Whereas another example is of 1740 of of Charles VI, Holy Roman Emperor, King of Bohemia, Hungary, and Croatia, who died of eating death cap mushrooms. These mushrooms, they seem to contain an active ingredient which is called alpha amanitin, and this is responsible for inhibiting the RNA polymerase, and which is responsible for protein synthesis, resulting in hepatocellular lysis, liver failure, kidney failure, respiratory failure. Another interesting toxicological example was identified in 1945 of Eva Braun, and which committed a suicide by consuming cyanide capsule. And basically, cyanide, as we all know, is an inhibitor of cytochrome C oxidase, and which results in inhibition of ATP synthesis and resulting in death. Another example of toxicological cases in 1975, Bando Mr. Surago 8, a famous Japanese kabuki actor, who died by consuming 4 livers of pufferfish. And the fish contains an active ingredient or active toxic ingredient which is called tetrodotoxin, and which is responsible for blocking the voltage gated sodium channels, leading to suppression of neurotransmission, numbness, bronchospasm, respiratory failure. Then there are other few cases of Minamata disorder of consuming the fish, which was having methyl mercury present in Japan, and which causes a neurological symptoms, and which has been greatly studied. Besides this, in 1980, Saddam Hussein used sarin, which is a nerve gas, and which is a organophosphate, which causes irreversible inhibition of acetylcholinesterases, resulting in killing. So there are some other aspects of toxicology as well. In 1972, Rachel Carson, it led to the ban of insecticide DDT for environmental and health concern, and one of the worst industrial disasters in Bhopal in 1984, which is because of the leakage of an insecticide producing Cargill producing insecticide company producing compound methyl cyanide. So all this have resulted in categorizing the various types of toxic agents into three broad categories. One is toxicant, one is toxins, and one is poison. When you call it as toxicant, substances that produce adverse biological effect of any nature. It may be physical or chemical in nature, and effects may be of various types. It could be acute and chronic. So those category of compounds are called as toxicants. In addition, chemicals which are generally produced by man-made, they are man-made, anthropogenic sources. Whereas toxins, they are specific proteins produced by some living organisms, like we have seen amanitin poison produced by mushroom, or it could be a tetanus toxin which is produced by some bacteria, which produces immediate effect. Then there is something called poisons. These are nothing but toxins that cause immediate death or illness when if it is taken in a very small amount. So this is it about the